Hello everyone, thank you for joining us. Yes, that's correct. It's time for another football video game related Chorizo cast, and here with me is the main man. It's Dave from YouTube channel Dave's Game Room. How are you doing, mate?
Doing really well. It's a really lovely Saturday morning, nice and brisk outside. How's yourself?
I'm okay. Yeah, it's another Saturday, and the last kind of 300-400 Saturdays have all felt the same because of obvious reasons, and I'm sure everyone watching this is waiting for life to get back to as normal as possible. But we're not here to be depressing, guys. We're here to talk about video games.
That's right. Today, we're covering a series that rivaled PES and FIFA, but then sort of faded away. Today, Mike, we're covering This Is Football on the Sony PlayStation from 1999.
We are, mate. Now, little backstory, guys, because you love hearing about mine and Dave's experiences playing these football games. I just know you do.
Yeah.
I had never played this until this morning. I've spent, I'd say, 2 or 3 hours playing this today. Dave, on the other hand, I'm pretty sure you played this. You bought this, didn't you, back in the day?
So I actually played the demo of this particular This Is Football iteration and actually quite liked it back in the day, thought it was pretty decent. And then I actually bought, back in the day, This Is Football 2 that came out, I think, a year or so afterwards, the sort of follow-up to it, which was still on the original PlayStation. So I, at the time, was actually reasonably impressed with this game. But it's going to be interesting to talk about me revisiting it for this footage because of my experiences with it now.
Sure. Okay. Guys, a quick explanation of This Is Football if you know nothing about it. So I'll pull this down from the wiki page just because it's easier, and it says This Is Football is a sports video game developed by SCE Studios Soho and published by Sony Computer Entertainment, only in Europe, exclusively for the PlayStation. The game carries a license from FIFA Pro, allowing the inclusion of 30,000 real-life players, and features English language commentary from the one and only Clive Tildesley. Now, like I say, Dave, I was playing this morning, my first time with it, and I've got good stuff to say about it, and I've got some negative things to say about it. But I want you to tell us about this footage that you've captured at first.
Yeah, so what I decided to do was a match of the time, and in 1999, Manchester United versus Arsenal was a huge rivalry in the Premier League as it was then, so I chose those two teams to have a go at it. I also, not sure if you would have seen it at the start, I chose the very hardest difficulty because, again, I like a challenge. I play all the football games on the hardest difficulty. And in this particular match, it doesn't end well for me. It really doesn't. I take a bit of a battering, and then the game actually ends with me ending the game with 9 men.
Okay.
On the pitch. Now, let's just talk about the gameplay quickly. I liked it back in the day, thought it was pretty decent. I'd say at the time it felt better than the FIFA games because we were at FIFA 2000 by the time this had come out, and I didn't particularly like FIFA 2000. The pace of this is reasonably good. The biggest problem that I had with this game was the ball physics, and in particular the shooting, because you'll see every single goal in this video footage I've captured is a low daisy cutter goal. None of them have got any backlift to the ball whatsoever. And that you'll find a lot if you play this game. A lot of the shoots, a lot of the shots you'll take, there'll be no backlift to them. There'll be no height to them. So every shot will look pretty much the same.
Yeah, I was going to complain about the shooting as well. The first thing that struck me was how cool the presentation was.
Very
and you guys know how crazy I am about content in football gaming. It doesn't get talked about enough. Gameplay is king. I believe that, but it does help when the content is good. And in this case, with This Is Football, presentation's really good. The commentary, considering the age of the game, is really good by, like I say, Clive Tildesley.
Yeah.
If a little repetitive, but again, it's the age of the game now, using the technology of the PS1. But yeah, the shooting, man.
Yeah.
Like, shooting is so important at football gaming, and you're right. I found myself scoring the same type of shot, type of goal every time, like a low-driven shot, and there was no variety in it at all.
No, I think in the second game that does improve, but yes, the first one, every single goal the AI scores past me in this video is the same type of shot, with the exception of the penalty kick that they get.
Yeah, I'm glad you've brought up AI.
Yeah.
That's my main negative with this game. Like, let me just say what I do like first.
Yeah.
Is, like I've already mentioned, the presentation. I like the animations. I thought the
Animations are good.
are really good
Yeah.
for its age.
Really good.
And it felt okay in the middle of the park.
Yeah.
Passing it around, it felt quite weighty. The pace of the game is just right.
Good. Very good.
It's just right.
Yeah.
It's not too slow that it's clunky and cumbersome and boring, but it's not too fast like maybe its competitors FIFA would have been at the time. I can't remember FIFA around then, but just using that as an example.
Yeah.
But man, the AI lets it down so much.
It does. Now, the AI, even in the footage that I'm showing here on World Class, does do some rather brain-dead things. If I actually sat down and played this a bit more and got myself, in the zones, as it were, I'd probably find ways of scoring the same goals every time, which is down to an AI weakness. What I mean by brain-dead moments, the AI will be running towards the byline and will just run the ball out of play, and you'll see that happens a few times.
Yeah. It's something that would stop me playing this for a lengthy amount of time, like back in the day, if I would have bought this in 99.
99, yeah.
And so, yeah. What was its Pro Evolution Soccer competitor in 1999?
ISS Pro Evolution would have come out by that time, I think.
Which was a very good game.
Which would have killed this for sure, because ISS Pro Evolution was a far more in-depth football game. But one disappointment for me with the This Is Football series, this one and the second one were both what I would call pretty average games. They weren't terrible, but they weren't brilliant by any stretch of the imagination. But then they've made this game a full-on arcade game for the PS2 versions, which I'm sure in the future will cover some of those.
Yeah, weird that. I was reading about that this morning, actually.
It went full arcade for some reason, and I have no idea why, because they were onto something good, especially with This Is Football 2.
What's annoying though, like I mentioned at the beginning of this video taken from the wiki page in regards to the game having the FIFA Pro license, 30,000 real life players.
Yeah.
And it annoys me when we've had these video games, the FIFAs, the This Is Football games in the past, they haven't utilised these licenses. They've spent a fortune on these licenses, and it always makes me think, imagine what Konami would have done with PES at that time with the FIFA Pro license.
I think they did get it eventually. To start off with, they didn't have it, but then I'm thinking from ISS Pro Evolution 2, they started having real player names. So from that point onwards, they did have some sort of a license to have real player names. But you're spot on; it would have been amazing. FIFA Pro, though, I think only represents players. It doesn't represent teams, which is why you'll hear Manchester and Arsenal rather than their full names.
I'm thinking.
Yeah,
I've got that completely wrong. I'm thinking here of Stadia, the kit.
Yes, that's right.
All that kind of thing as well, but you're spot on, because I remember PES did get that early as well. I mean, we stopped getting Van Nistelrooy.
Yes.
And etc. quite early on in Pro Evo's life in the 90s, actually, didn't we?
We did, yeah.
Or late 90s.
Late 90s,
rather.
yeah, we did. There were still some players who, for one reason or another, weren't licensed, so their nation wasn't licensed for whatever reason. But yeah, for the most part, after ISS Pro Evolution, we started getting real player names for a lot of players.
So This Is Football has got like I keep saying, the 30,000 real life players.
Yeah.
Does that go for their player models as well? Because I haven't played enough of this today to work that one out.
The models seem quite generic. There are height and weight stats that you can adjust, because you can actually edit and create your own players in this game, like you can in Pro Evolution Soccer. But for the most part, the players look very, very similar. Their models all look fairly generic. When you move on to This Is Football 2002, I think it is, on the PlayStation 2, you start seeing real faces and real sort of better player models that more accurately represent the player it's supposed to be.
Yeah, because we were actually WhatsApping each other with images that we were considering using for the thumbnail to this video this morning.
Yeah.
And I sent you a funny one of David Seaman we wanted to use in his England goalkeeper kit, and you were like, "No, Mike, I think that's This Is Football 2002." So obviously we didn't use it on this video.
Yeah.
But yeah, the player models are actually
with his dodgy porn star moustache
with his porn star moustache
and ponytail.
Yeah, but they look quite good.
Yeah,
they did look quite good. But yeah, it does annoy me with. Basically, it's kind of not related to This Is Football, but like my point earlier I was trying to get at is licensing in general. You've had EA with these hardcore licenses for so long,
yeah,
and The gameplay, though, they haven't utilised the license, is what I'm trying to say. The gameplay has just always been, been wasted, and that's the point I was trying to make. But you're spot on. FIFA Pro is real life player names, which is important because I don't know how many years I had with Greggs when Giggs got on the ball, etc. Do you know what I mean? I don't know how many years I would have put up with that for. So I'm really glad that it's this FIFA Pro. I keep going on about FIFA Pro, guys, but I'm so glad it wasn't an exclusive thing to one game only. That would have really annoyed me.
And one last sort of factoid about This Is Football. This is the last game before we were just down to Pro Evolution Soccer and FIFA. This is the last football game series that was in that arena. And then obviously it faded away and stopped just before the PS3. And the reason it did, you mentioned Soho, Team Soho. They were the ones who also were developing a getaway game that we've talked about in the past for PS3. Of course, Sony closed the doors, and they were also working on a next generation This Is Football title at that time for the PS3. But naturally, with their doors closing by Sony, This Is Football disappeared as well.
That's sad because The Getaway was a fantastic video game, Dave. We've covered it on your channel. Guys, check Dave's YouTube channel out. I'll leave the link in the description, as I always do. Yeah, The Getaway was awesome. And also what's really sad about that is we're desperate for a third player in the industry.
We could do with Sony opening up or re-establishing one of their studios for sports games, because I would love to see another football game, but not an arcadey football game, please.
No, not arcadey, but the balance needs to be right. It needs to be fun as well, and not all bogged down, like I was saying about PES. I think last week or the week before in the Chorizo cast, that modern day PES just feels all bogged down and clunky, and it's just so simplistic. Its shooting mechanic is, but that's they're for the modern day football gaming videos, guys. You don't want to hear that on this series, which is just supposed to be a bit of fun. So This Is Football.
Yes,
I think it's okay. If I was to kind of score it back in the day, if I was a reviewer for one of the magazines, like Official PlayStation Magazine, for example, I'd probably give it a 7 or an 8 out of 10. It's okay, considering its age now. But yeah, the AI lets it down. The shooting, like you've already said, Dave, is a bit dull.
Abysmal. Yeah, it's abysmal.
Yeah. Guys, thank you so much for joining me and Dave. Let us know in the comments what football games you want to see on this series. Like we said before, there won't always be FIFA and PES. Obviously, we've just talked about This Is Football, but we are going to explore many weird and wonderful football video games. Dave, thank you so much for coming on today.
No problems. Thanks for having me.
Take care, guys.